I was definitely excited for The Detective is Already Dead, a new series airing in the summer 2021 season. But after watching the first full hour episode, I am kind of concerned at this point, but this is my first impressions on the episode, so let's get into it. The Detective is Already Dead opens up with a guy named Kimihiko, which is later called Kimi. And Kimihiko, essentially, it kind of outlines the fact that he has a lot of, he's very unlucky. Seems like every time he turns around a corner or something, he runs into something very unfortunate. I think he shows him, running into a drug deal and all this other stuff that he ends up getting involved with because he's just very unlucky. And this kind of continues as he runs into a group that forces him to get onto a plane with a suitcase. And he does so, as he's told. He gets on the plane, starts flying, and then eventually, as he's on the flight, the attendants are asking for a detective. Is there a detective in the house? It's like, usually they ask for a doctor. Why are they asking for a detective? Well, sure enough, sitting next to him is a girl named Siesta, and Siesta is a detective. And she turns to him and says, "Hey, be my assistant." And he's like, "No, I don't want to be your assistant." And he kind of gets dragged into it. But the two of them end up going to the front of the plane where there is a hijacker there. He calls himself Bat. And Bat pretty much says, guess why I'm doing this, essentially. And Siesta kind of surprisingly figures it out. Actually, she tricks him into telling why he's doing it, which is that he just wants to do something exciting and doesn't care for his life. And as they're leaving, she kind of prods the guy a little more. He's like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna... You got me. I'm gonna go and turn myself in, and that'll be the end of it." And she keeps prodding at him for his reasoning, and essentially that she knew it all along. And this kind of, I guess, invokes him to attack. You kind of find out that he has this thing that this certain organization has, which is called an android, and he's applied it to his ear, and it turns into this long, weird, tentacle-looking thing that attacks, and Siesta's fighting it, and this is when Kimi decides to help by... He just assumes that this briefcase that he was told to bring on the plane is something that she's going to need. So he throws the suitcase to her, and turns out it's actually a gun, and that she gave it to him, or she was the one that was behind giving him the suitcase. Super mastermind detective stuff, blah, blah, blah. But she used this gun to fight the thing, and they save the plane, and they land, and Siesta doesn't leave him alone, though. From then on, she keeps kind of prodding him as he goes about his days, requesting him to become her partner. And she's kind of just stuck on this idea. And there's some exchanges. You kind of get some little prodding from her and the idea that, he's so normal looking that he'd be perfect for, or unmemorable or something like that, that he'd be a perfect person for covert operations and stuff. But eventually, through essentially her helping him with this mystery that people are disappearing at the school, or at least turning into zombies. It ends up turning like a drug thing. Through helping her, or her helping him with that, he eventually, again, was going to decline her, but in her stating that she will protect him, because it's the only thing she's offering him, like, "Are you offering me money or something?" What she's offering to him is protection. And this actually kind of makes sense to me when I think about it, because it's like this concept of he has all this bad luck, he's obviously running into bad things, and she's essentially implying that she will protect him no matter what he runs into. So through this, he finally accepts, "Yes, I will be your partner." Which is apparently short-lived, because it didn't take long before, as the title would lead you to believe, the detective is already dead. And sure enough, he goes back to school, back to his normal life after apparently she had died. And that's where we kind of leave it. We get a really quick glimpse of this other girl at his school who apparently seems to be scrolling through some information about a girl being saved. So I'm assuming they're implying that she is going to be a character that will be interested in him because she was saved by him and Seista. But that's kind of where we leave it. He's going back to his normal school life, and there's this girl at his school that apparently knows him, or at least been involved with him. So yeah, like I said before, I'm troubled with this one because this is one that I was looking forward to. The PV really did sell me on it. They did have a really cool shot of an action scene that I did really like. I think they did a pretty good job on it, even though they did utilize CGI. It looked good. They had some really cool little kind of velocity-driven animation that looked really cool. Some really cool contrast to her visuals and everything, or Siestas anyways. So it has some cool stuff there. My troubling point is more in the dialogue, the conversations that they had. I mean, this is an hour-long episode, and a lot of it was just really Siesta prodding him to become her partner, and also just kind of very uninteresting detective work. This conversations they have and stuff were just kind of, I mean, the whole Hanako-kun thing was just kind of, this isn't very interesting. And that's really where I'm struggling with, because this is technically a mystery show. It's detective work, but all the stuff behind it's not very interesting, because a lot of it is really driven by the concept that Siesta already has it done. Like, her tagline is essentially having everything figured out before you enter the situation. And so she's already have everything figured out. She already knows what's going to happen. So there's no issue there, because she's such a good detective that she has it done. She's already got it figured out before it even happens. So it's kind of anticlimactic in that regard. Now, I guess with her out of the picture, Kimi, he can actually have some difficulties trying to figure things out if he does go alone. But that's where it gets into my theories. Is initially when I seen the PVs and the synopsis for this one, I'm thinking, okay, they have this really beautiful character, obviously the cover art character, and having her come out of, basically be wiped out of the picture right off the bat doesn't make any sense to me. So I was assuming, okay, is she going to become a ghost? Is it going to be a case where she faked her death? Those are my two guesses. Was either a ghost, she's going to come back as a ghost and be helping him with solving mysteries, or is she going to be essentially faking her death and then eventually come back? But as it got into the episode, it seemed like they were driving this other idea. Essentially, when they revealed that he had this android thing coming out of his ear, Kimi immediately turns to Siesta right off the bat and says, wait, so does that mean you're... And I don't know where he got this conclusion from, but he's already drawing the conclusion that, oh, this Siesta girl's obviously an android then. Which, again, I don't know how he came to that conclusion, but it's insinuating, and based on the fact that she lifts him up and runs off with him, that she's obviously not a girl. She's not a regular physical girl able to, do all this crazy stuff physically. I mean, anime obviously can do whatever it wants to do, but if we want to be grounded in reality, she wouldn't be able to do physically what she's doing, so it's insinuating that she is one of these androids. Now, that does beg the question, is it going to be a case where she was an android there, and then all they got to do is rebuild her, and she'll show up later on being another android? She's always been an android, and so they just rebuild her? Or again, is it going to fall back on my other concept of her being a ghost? But either one of those two seem to be, well, either of those three seem to be the issue here, because I don't see them removing her completely from the show. But at the same time, it's not that I'm really clamoring, because like I said, the chemistry between Kimi and Siesta wasn't all that great. Maybe introducing this new girl might spice that up a little bit and help improve the chemistry. But with Siesta being very quiet and Kimi being very distant, again, it's nothing against those two archetypes of character types, but more of them together doesn't really spell a really fun, engaging conversation, and that's where I kind of stick. So, yeah, we'll see. This is definitely going to be one that I need to see a little bit more of to figure out if I'm going to like it or not. But it being a mystery series, I'm hoping it will really pick up from this point. And it could potentially be a series I'd love to cover on a weekly basis, based on the idea that I do like a good mystery. I mean, Odd Taxi last season was so much fun to talk about. Shadow House was so much fun to talk about. So we'll see going forward. But that's my thoughts on the first hour-long episode of The Detective Is Already Dead. I hope you guys enjoyed my impressions on this episode. If you did, leave a like down below. Comment, let me know what you thought of it. Subscribe if you haven't already, because I will be doing basically first impressions on all the shows this season, as well as reviews and everything else, and weekly impressions. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, share it if you can, and y'all take care.